teaching point is fiction writers research their topics before writing about social issues. This session is designed for students looking for ways to integrate factual research into their realistic fiction scene writing. It's a pre-writing activity that I recommend all of you do before even delving into doing any scene writing. We're going to learn in this video, number one, how to conduct research on your social issues, how to weave that research into your topics, and also how to use a documentary voice to introduce your topics. Now, we've already learned this year that there's three very simple ways to do research. Number one is your school library databases. If you have an online library source, you would be foolish not to use those online databases. So if you're not yet using them, speak to a teacher and they'll show you how to get onto them. The second one is smart Google search. If you go to Google and just search in your term, you're not going to be guaranteed to get credible sources. So number one, use the site edu after your topic, and it's going to give you educational resource. Number two, talk about tools. Look in the tools and you could actually search by country, time period, and that way you can get more recent and current articles. And then finally, Wikipedia. Not the Wikipedia articles themselves, but the sources at the end of those Wikipedia articles. Now, if this content is challenging, you can go to the website Rewordify, copy and paste the text into it, and then you can get that text at your own reading level later. So, which favorite note-taking strategy are you going to use to collect that information? Maybe it's Cornell notes, maybe it's charting notes, whichever system works best for you. And finally, weaving that research into your writing. This is what we'll show next. Now look at what these students have done. They did a little bit of research and how they think that they're going to weave this research into their pieces. And now, 30 minutes later, we're going to ask Ashley what else she's learned about her topic and to see now whether she's got actual ideas that she can bring into a story based on her research. Ashley, tell me about your topic.
Okay. Kids can get cerebral palsy right as they are born or up to 5 years of age. There are many different kinds of cerebral palsy, like spastic cerebral palsy, which causes stiffness and movement difficulties, and ataxic cerebral palsy, which causes a problem with balance and depth precipitation. I'm going to use spastic cerebral palsy because, my main character, Skylar, who has cerebral palsy, will be in a wheelchair. And then from another video that I learned, starring this girl who had cerebral palsy, it showed how she went to physical therapy, which helped kept her body moving and all. So I think Skylar will go through this. Cerebral palsy can also be caused by minor head injuries after they're born. And although there's no cure for this, there are special treatments like physical therapy.
Could you do a flashback in your piece where maybe that the baby gets some kind of injury and the mum feels guilty because of something that the mum did? Okay, now let's look at one other student who's going to weave some research in and how she's going to go ahead and do it.
So in my research, I found out that the two main motivations for a school shooter is either they were being bullied and they want revenge, or they had some sort of family issues or outside influences that caused them to want to use a shooting. So how I'm going to use that in the story is that maybe I use a flashback and show how my main character was raised and how his parents taught him to hate a group and a certain group of people, or a certain religion. And so that's his motivation to target that people during the shooting. Well, I used my research for the setting, so it's definitely going to be set in America, in either Chicago or Florida, where there's a lot of violence or kind of death and stuff. Yeah, but I looked it up that Florida is a big place for shootings, because I think there's been 14 shootings in Florida. I used my research for that one too. And maybe some of the inner conflict that I found in research is, in my anchor text, I found that the kind of emotions that the characters usually feel. There's hopelessness, anger, hate, which could also help drive the character to do the shooting and what he might be feeling during or before and after.
Okay, so you've got an opportunity there to see how those students are going to weave in research. Now, let me just give you an example of what that might look like. And this is from a story called Graduation of Jake Moon. Alzheimer's disease has 3 stages. Each stage is worse than the one before it. I didn't know if any of the stages have official names, but in my head, I think of them as sad, sadder, and the saddest thing you've ever seen. Skelly's doc is a woman named Dr. Bloomfield. She's told me that there's no time period for how long each stage lasts, and that since not all patients have the same symptoms, you're never sure exactly when a person has passed from one terrible stage to the next terrible stage. The day I started 4th grade, I went to get a can of orange juice and found Skelly's pajamas in the freezer. It might sound funny, but it was the second time he'd put them in there instead of the hamper, so I didn't get a big hearty laugh out of it or anything. A few days later, when I brought a new best friend, Lucas Carney, home from school, there's a little note on the freezer in Skelly's handwriting. It said, "This is not the hamper." So we're starting to bring in some of the research here. We're putting on some of the station. We have an expert that's informing the protagonist, the Dr. Bloomfield. We have the internal and the external plot lines there. So these actually possibly are the stages of Alzheimer's, but they're also the stages that this character's feeling towards his grandfather. We're having anecdotes that are actually showing this disease instead of telling us about the disease, that 4th grade sleepover. Now, if you look at all of those things together, we've got the internal, external conflict, they're dealing with the different stages, we've got definitions, we've got expert testimony, principle of authority, we've got a reflection, an anecdote, we're flashing back to a scene, we're using first person point of view, and we're transitioning from the day I started 4th grade a few days later. All of those are ways that this character is weaving in some research in an authentic way in their realistic fiction writing. Now, you're going to use a documentary teaching voice style to summarize your research on your social issue. You're not just going to bring your research, I learned this, and this. No, you're going to put that research into some kind of context using the documentary voice. Look how this is modeled in this short video. I'm only going to show you the first 60 seconds of this.
I always thought a low-fat diet was the way to go. Saturated fat was always the enemy because it raises your cholesterol. And then there was a big war on this, good old salt, because it raises your blood pressure. But now it seems something that's been innocently lurking in our cupboards for centuries is the new public enemy #1. It's sugar. And you know what? I don't really know why, so I'm going to go and find out. I'm Fiona Phillips, and like most of us, I love my sweet treats. But I want to discover the latest science about what sugar is really doing to us.
This is part of the brain that reacts when you have sugary foods and sugary drinks.
And why you might be eating far more than you think.
Oh, that is a lot of sugar.
I'll be uncovering how you can spot the sugar in foods you'd think were sugar-free.
Nearly 9.5 teaspoons. 20 teaspoons!
How clever cookery can get sweet results without adding sugar.
Oh, it's really delicious.
And revealing the sugars that even doctors say you can enjoy guilt-free.
You do like oranges?
I do, yes.
I'm going to find out the surprising and very sticky truth about sugar.
Wow!
You're going to write up that research using your documentary voice, and then once it's time to start writing your realistic fiction scene, you'll weave those facts into your realistic fiction writing. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with.